Hey folks, it's Arthur, but my friends call me Archie. This podcast episode is sponsored by you. If you have a more personal situation you want me to give my in-depth commentary on, send me an email. And thank you to all those who keep this channel going. All right, so I've had some of these emails actually piling up for the last while. I've been on some vacation, and so I have some of these emails I just haven't read into the channel, and so I'm happy to do those in now. So let's see, we have a message here that they gave me permission to use on the channel. I always appreciate that. If you let me use your message on the channel, I think it doesn't just help you, it helps other people. And so I read the message here, and then they can hear it on the channel, but then I also write them an email back a little bit more in depth. And so anyways, let's go ahead, let's get right into it. So this one says, "Hey Archie, I hope you're doing well. I've been reading your column, and I finally mustered the courage to write in. I appreciate that. Good to have courage. My name is Sarah. I'm 29. For the past few years, I've been struggling with something that's really hard to talk about. When I was younger, I went through a very difficult relationship. My ex was emotionally abusive, constantly criticizing me and making me feel worthless. It took me years to get out of that relationship, and while I know I made the right decision, the scars are still there. Since then, I've tried to move on and date other people, but I find it incredibly challenging to trust anyone. Every time I start to get close to someone, I become overwhelmed with anxiety and doubt. I constantly second guess their intentions and worry that history will repeat itself. This has led me to pushing people away even when they haven't done anything to deserve it. A few months ago, I met someone really wonderful. He's kind, patient, and understanding. But despite this, I can't shake off the fear that things will go wrong. My past keeps haunting me, and it's affecting my ability to be present and open in this new relationship. I want to make this work, but I don't know how to overcome the shadows of my past. Thank you for your guidance. Sarah." Okay, so I think I always like to look at these emails and just kind of review them again, make sure I'm getting the feeling of the story. You know, there's definitely a vibe that goes on in a lot of these emails, right? And so I want to make sure that I'm hearing this person correctly, right? You're talking about their ex is emotionally abusive. They were getting a lot of criticism, feeling worthless, relationship that lasted years, and they are justifying being able to get out of that relationship, but they still feel scarred. Every time they get close to someone, they're overwhelmed, anxiety, doubt. They second guess the intentions. History will repeat itself. I push people away even when they haven't done anything to deserve it. She meets a new guy, patient, understanding. She can't shake off the fear that things will go wrong. My past is haunting me. It's affecting my ability to be present and open. I really want to make this work. I don't know how to overcome the shadows of my past. Yeah, I want you, to the listeners here, really get a feeling for this email. There's a lot of worry in this email, which makes sense, right? She's in a worried situation. This is why she's reaching out. But really get a sense of this is something that's been happening for a long time, something that this person is trying to overcome. Okay, let's go right into this. I think if I had to summarize this email, it would be, how can I heal from past trauma? Really. So, how does a person heal from past trauma? I think one of the best ways that a person can heal from things that have happened in the past is to have healthy relationships in the future, right? And so you talk about health in a way is the same way that we talk about physical health, but this emotional and relationship health as well. I think we should really focus here on trust. I think what the essence of this email is about trust. You get close to a person and then trusting the person, second guessing their intentions. I think this email is mostly about trust. You had trust in the past, it didn't go well, now I'm distrusting now. I think what this email is mostly about trust. So now when I look at this email, I think to myself, about situations I've had, situations that I've heard of, that is where trust is not, it's not going well. I'm really letting you guys into the process of how I look at these emails, how I interpret them, and then how I go about answering them. And so I appreciate, any patience that you guys have with me. But I really want to get a sense, a feel of what does this email, what is it emotionally telling me, okay? So she's second guessing their intentions. I'm wondering here, have you guys ever seen a dog, and it's like, could be, a 2-year-old or something, and you've just adopted a dog, or a friend of yours has just adopted a dog, and you, I don't know, just something super arbitrary. You pull up the broom just to sweep or something, and the dog is frightened, super, super frightened. And he barks at the broom, and he like runs away, or, this feeling of like, this is such a harmless thing. I'm sweeping. Why are you so afraid of this, right? And so we deduce from this situation that the dog probably has some past where the broom has been, instead of a vehicle to clean, it's been a vehicle to do harm to the dog, right? And so trauma is a bit like this. It is like you have a memory, you have an experience with a look, an action, certain words, a tonality, a gesture. You have experience with these in a way that affected you negatively, and so now your process is to react to those. I want you guys maybe just get like a little bit of an insight. This is actually quite interesting. On this whole dog metaphor that we're doing now, obviously people are different than dogs, but this is something that's quite interesting too. We're training one of our dogs, and I read a lot, and so one of the things that I've been reading about is this kind of like Skinner type of psychology that was happening with reinforcement and things like that. And one of the things that I stumbled upon was this pheromone of the dog. And so before, when I used to have a dog, I would see the dog that would curl its tail, right? And I would say, oh, this dog is embarrassed, or he's shy, or I don't know, And so then when I was learning about these pheromones a little while ago, there's this very interesting theory or postulate that says that the dogs, they secrete pheromones from anal glands. And so these pheromones get distributed in the air. And what is a good way of diffusing or distributing things in the air? It is through, like, if, for example, if you had a cologne and it was like a really musty cologne, then you would wave your hand in the air and try to make the cologne go everywhere, right? Because it diffuses and it goes out into the space. And so a good way of diffusing things, of allowing things to go out into the air, is to wave your hand back and forth, or to like swat at the air, right? And the air will make it diffuse. And so the dogs, this theory, it says like the dogs have these anal glands, they secrete the pheromones, and then the tail waves back and forth and secretes these pheromones into the air, allowing other dogs to smell them too. And so it's this really interesting thing of, why do dogs wag their tail? It's because they want other dogs to let them know what pheromones they might be feeling. And the pheromone is a gas that is supposed to communicate some sort of feeling. And so pheromones are supposed to trigger feelings of like sexual arousal, but they also trigger feelings of fear, right? And so the second part of this, obviously the dog wags its tail, and so this theory says they do it so that other dogs can know what they're feeling. But then they say too that the dog will curl its tail, it will put its tail inside, because they don't want the enemy dog or the alpha dog to smell the anal pheromone that is produced with fear, right? And so the fear in this moment secretes through the anus, and it diffuses into the air. And in order for the dog to not allow for this pheromone to secrete into the air, it will cover its anus with its tail, looking like a curved tail, and it looks like it's embarrassed or ashamed or something. But another interpretation is that the dog is feeling fear in this situation. And so very, very interesting response, right? And I think that we as people, we have similar responses as to our friends in the animal kingdom, because we're built from the same cloth, if you will. And so these emotions of fear, of anxiety, they also display themselves in a certain way, right? And so this anxiety that you could be having is a natural response. I guess is what I want to say with all of this, is that it's a natural response and it's okay. And so really a big part of why I do this advice column is to allow people to be conscious of what might be happening and to feel okay and to feel normal with their responses that they have. A lot of this advice column writing is just about helping people to feel lower states of anxiety. You'll notice that when an animal or when a person feels a lot of anxiety, they are not able to think so far ahead into the future. They're able to think about the next few minutes or the next hour or something like that. But it's not so easy to rationalize what your life would look like or have some sort of long-term plan when you feel scared right now, right? If, for example, an intruder comes into my home, I have to know what I can do within the next minute or seconds. I don't have enough time to, in this state of anxiety, to plan what might happen after the intruder leaves or after the altercation. And so what I want to say with this is that lowering the state of anxiety puts you in a situation where you can be a little bit more logical, where you can be a little bit more insightful of what you might do with your time. And so for this, for Sarah who's writing in here, you want to find ways to lower your states of anxiety, right? And so one of the great methods of lowering your states of anxiety so that you can make better choices and be happier with yourself, I would assume that if most of your choices are driven by anxiety, then it's not long-term gonna be conducive to success for you. You need to sit back, you need to be okay, you need to have low levels of anxiety in order to plan things in an appropriate way. And so a lot of people will try to do what is called like fear training, where it like diminishes the amount of fear that you have, the amount of anxiety that you have. So a very famous example is like if you're afraid of like a puppy or you're afraid of a dog. Let's say that you've had some experience where you've been bit by a dog before. Then you have a dog and he's on a leash and you make sure that the dog is not violent, obviously. And you get closer to the dog until you feel safe. And then you get a bit closer until you feel safe. And it can last a little while. And then you feel a little bit closer. And then as you start to feel safer and safer, you can approach the dog. And you then feel safe getting right next to the dog. And then you pet the dog until you feel safe, until you realize that there's no danger present anymore. And so in this email that she has sent me, she says, I met someone who's wonderful, he's kind, he's patient, he's understanding. Despite all of this, I can't shake the fear that things will go wrong. My past keeps haunting me. What I want to tell you with this is to acknowledge your past. Acknowledge the things that have happened to you before. Acknowledge the things that have created a fear response in you before. Tell your fear, tell your heart, thank you. Thank you for protecting me. Fear is a protective response. It's there to help you. It's not there to hurt you. But sometimes it can go a little above and beyond what it's supposed to do. And it can allow us to have fear in situations that we don't need to have fear. Allow the puppy or the dog to have fear of the broom when the broom is not going to do any harm to the puppy. And your boyfriend, if he's a good man, he will try not to harm you either. But being able to acknowledge what has happened to you in the past, have these anxieties levels go down, and then let this person treat you the right way. Allow yourself to be treated in the right way. And as you're creating more experiences, this is like the fear training. You're getting closer and closer, and you're realizing that your life is not at risk, that there's no danger here, okay? And so put yourself in situations where there's a bit of, that you're close to the fear, but you feel safe. And then you stay there, and you look around, and you say, okay, I feel safe. This is a good partner for me. I feel safe. And you get a bit closer, but what I want to avoid is this feeling of all or nothing, right? Oh, I have to be completely trusting or completely standoffish and completely non-trusting. Allow yourself to go down as if it were gradient steps. and to slowly take a step and become closer to this person and tell them, I have some fears, but give me a second. Allow me to go down these steps slowly. Be patient with me, please. And you'll notice that your partner becomes more patient with you and allows you to go these steps and tell him, if we can go down this together, then we will have the relationship and it will be extremely healing for me. And I'm sure your partner wants what is best for you as well. So just a very brief look at this email. How do you overcome the shadows of your past? You have courage. You step into the shadow, little by little. You step into the dark room, but enough so that you have a little bit of light, you're close to the door, and you slowly walk more in until your eyes become accustomed to the dark. And then you walk a bit further, and you realize there's nothing to worry about. Everything will be okay. And I think it's much easier when you have a person that you can trust, that's by your side, that's there for you. But don't let these past experiences dictate your life today. Lower these levels of anxiety, become conscious of where you are, that things are okay, you're not hurt, and that will be very healing for you. Thank you.